Hi, everyone, and welcome to Office Hours. I'm Emily, VP of Customer Success here at ProLine, and this is Oliver, our VP of Product and Development at ProLine. Today, we're going to walk through a new feature called Workflows. We're going to do an overview of workflows, what they are, how they replace campaigns, and what changes you should expect moving forward. This session is meant to give you a clear mental model of how the automation works in ProLine. And then before you start building or editing your workflows yourself, this should be super helpful. We will be adding a few more sessions to dive deeper into the specific sections of workflows, which I'll show you shortly over the next couple of weeks. By the end of this session, though, you should understand what workflows automate, how they're structured, and where to go when you need visibility or troubleshooting. So, first, what are workflows and why do they exist? They exist because our customers asked for them. Workflows are ProLine's automation system. They're designed to automatically send messages, create tasks, update projects, and trigger integrations without manual work. Workflows are replacing the legacy campaign system with more flexibility, better visibility, and automation that matches how your business actually runs day to day. One of the big shifts here is that workflows are not only tied to contacts, instead, they're run based on projects, jobs, and events, which allows you to automate your full process end to end from lead intake, production, billing, all using one system. So, before we go any further, let's quickly check whether workflows are enabled in your account. Let me share my screen with you. To check if workflows are turned on in your account, you're going to want to hop over to this hamburger menu. And I have workflows enabled, so I see workflows as my second option. If they are not enabled, it will say campaigns. To turn this on, you're going to want to go to Company Settings, Beta Features. And since mine's activated, I have the option to just go to Workflows. And if yours is not activated, it will ask you if you would like to turn it on. An important call out here is converting to Workflows is a one-way change. So once converted, campaigns are no longer going to appear, but your automations will continue running inside the new system. So let's go to Workflows. You'll notice here that we have 3 different sections in our workflows. We have triggers, workflows, and active workflows. Triggers are how a workflow is actually going to run. Every workflow will start with a trigger. Triggers define when it should begin. They can fire off when a project changes stages, a job changes stages, an event is created using a specific event type. Workflows operate through the project, job, or event and then send communication to the contact linked to that object. This allows automation to reflect real-world operations instead of being locked to a single contact record. You can trigger.
Also, just sorry, I just wanted to add some additional context there, if that's okay. Um, so the project ones are the exact same as campaigns. So like that's how it always used to be, right?
Yeah.
When everyone used to just have like that one single one there. I think one of the biggest things that people were asking for there was that they might have multiple different things going on with a project at any one time. So they might have like the main billing workflow, let's say, running at the same time as production, and there were so many different things happening, and they could only automate like one at a time.
Mhm.
You know, it's just like probably one of the best things there is that with all the new triggers there, they can all run simultaneously if you want them to.
Yes.
But just an important call out, because some people weren't aware of it though, is that you can still have it like stopping all other workloads if you want to. You can still have workloads running just as campaigns was, so like only one automation only happens at one time. You don't have to have a simultaneous nature. Sorry for interrupting. Just want to, yeah.
No, it's good. I'm glad you said that. It one of the beautiful things about it is that it can run simultaneous workflows. That's probably the biggest ask, like you said, for this new feature. But um, some maybe like dip your toes in, start with one at a time as you're used to.
There are definitely sometimes where, like, you don't want simultaneous as well, for sure.
Mhm.
Like, in some, like, speed to lead or, like, onboarding situations, like, you don't necessarily want multiple running at once.
Right.
Um, but there'll be so many other we'll probably add a lot of other addressable fields too in the future, but, like, maybe you wanna have one workflow running for your primary contact and one workflow running for your secondary contact, especially if your secondary contact was, like, an insurance adjuster or something like that. You wanna
Yeah.
have these be able to, like, run simultaneously and not interfere with each other at all. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's hop in actually. Let's just look at triggers in a little bit more detail. Again, this is meant to be an overview, but we will hop into this in another session as well. But in triggers, they're going to control again how they start automatically. And this is where you'll manage those entry points. You can see there's project triggers, like we talked about, job stage triggers, and event type triggers. And for example, you might have a trigger that runs when a project reaches paid and closed, which I think I may have that. Oh, here, paid and closed, but stops automation if a project has a tag, a certain tag. So maybe I want to have it make sure that it stops projects that have the blacklist tag included. Maybe, um, and I can stop active workflows for the project if this trigger is turned on. And then I can also start a workflow, which is we'll get into in just a moment. There's a lot of things here that you can use in your triggers. So this one is so simple. I have just the one tag blacklist to turn this trigger on or off. Project location can be one, project category.
We just added lead source as well. We didn't have that before, but, I think some people were actually, like, using Zapier to get around that. Like, they were
Oh,
managing it via Zapier to
yeah.
choose which campaign to start because we didn't have that in there, but so we added that
That's very
as an
good.
additional one.
Yeah, because you likely want your workflow, your messaging to be different depending on where this lead came from.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. Project type. I mean, this one's pretty obvious. If your types are insurance or retail, you'll have completely different workflows for that, business process. Project
Not
sort.
necessarily.
Well,
Sorry.
you
Jumping around. That well, no, but there's another thing we just opened up, which is the conditions you can have on the steps now. So you never used to be able to have that in campaigns. It was just like, it's gonna run the whole campaign. It's gonna run every single step. What
right,
we've seen some people doing now is they might have had an insurance campaign and a retail campaign, but a lot of the steps in some of those campaigns, especially more like the speed to lead stage, were quite similar. But what they can do now is have like two different steps and just run one of those, like run this step if it's insurance and run this step if it's retail. And so they can merge it into like one campaign if enough of them are similar. Like,
okay,
yes, to your point, you could run two different workflows, but now with the new options opened up, you could also just run like one master workflow that has different steps you can choose between.
fair enough. The final thing to point out here is that you can have multiple conditions. So I can add a condition group here. At the very top, I can filter by all trigger types. So I can just see what are my project triggers, the stages, job stages, and event types. And then I can also, top right, create a trigger from scratch. And again, we'll dive more into that on another session, but I just wanted to point that out. All these options right here at the top. The UI is pretty easy to navigate. We're going to hop over to the workflows section. This is your workflow library. These are organized into different folders. This is where you're going to create new workflows, of course, organize workflows into folders, edit existing workflows, build step-by-step automation using the workflow builder, which is something that Oliver was just talking about. I can search my workflows. So maybe I just want to see anything under other. Well, you do have to type it in correctly for that to work. um, I can create new folders. So if I'd like to organize this differently, I can. And I can, of course, click here to create a workflow. Um, there's some quick action buttons here: delete, edit, or add, and these different sections. You can see how many steps are in a workflow, how many, if it's active, and for how many projects run this week, and total runs. This is a demo account. I have lots of steps, but not a lot of active workflows running. When you click, ugh, when you click create workflow, you'll be taken into the workflow builder in a new tab. We can type workflow name here. Test 2. I have lots of test workflows happening here. I will do this one based on a project. Lead rehash. Maybe I want to clone an existing workflow, which I'm sure you're familiar with that language, or import from my workflow library. I can create a blank workflow. Let's do it from library. Why not? All right. So let's go down to my test. Why did I think this was going to open in a second tab? I was incorrect on that. Here we are. Here we are, my second tab. This workflow is inactive, so no projects can run through this workflow right now. I also don't have any triggers to set this workflow off. Um, I have wait, this is something that was preset, right? So I've added wait time. I can send an email and a text. One thing I really like about this that's different from what we were using with campaigns is that I can just organize these by dragging and dropping. And then, of course, I can hover and just click here to add a step or add a wait time, which is super helpful. This is quite a long um, workflow, but again, we're going to dive deeper into specific workflow settings at a later time, but I wanted to show you how to get started on one. The next big section that we have here is called active workflows. Active workflows is going to show you any of them that are going, and this is going to show you based on the contacts that they're going to. I have Rachel, Stephen, and Ryan. This shows the workflow specifically, what current step they're on, what the next run is, and then what it was triggered by. Click on this workflow, it will open up the workflow itself, which is very good. Super easy to just see what actually is happening with the customers. And then, of course, I can filter this by project, event, or job and any status. So all of mine are inactive right now, but you could look at any active workflows only, paused, ended, or stopped. All right. Let me take a look and see what all I'm missing here. Um, I do want to make sure that I double down here on the key differences between workflows and campaigns. So workflows run on projects, jobs, and events, not just contacts. So they will send the text or email to the contacts on the project, job, or event, but they're going to run based on the project, job, or event. Multiple workflows can run at the same time. Centralized triggers in one place. As you can see, that's what this section is over here on the top left. Provide full visibility through active workflows. They end automatically when no steps remain, and make steps easier to edit, reorder, and toggle on and off. And then manage communication response behavior centrally. This makes our automation tool way more powerful and is just easier to understand. The best practice, I think, and Oliver, you can correct me if we're wrong here, but set up your triggers first. They control sort of how the workflows start, is what we're thinking. Plan multiple workflows running at once to avoid duplicate messaging. So plan for that when you're going through your workflows and triggers. And remember that workflow edits are not retroactive. Changes are only going to apply to future runs.
Yes, but if you have projects in a workflow, it would apply to them. But yes, yeah, I mean, like if it's already sent a text message, it's not gonna
It will, yeah, I
do anything
can't
like
change it.
that.
That's what I
But
mean.
yeah. No, I agree. Yes, Um, design your triggers out first. A lot of There were a lot of different ways you could do things in version one, which led to people setting up some pretty interesting campaigns. And because there was only one campaign active at any one time, um, it didn't really cause any issues.
Mhm.
But there that can cause some issues with the new style. So as you can see there, you've got like a trigger that's got a little exclamation mark on it, the top
Yeah.
left one.
Yep.
So there can be some that when you convert across, like they're just set up in a different way that's not really compatible with the new workflow system. And so the system will flag that for you, send you an email about it, and just ask you like, "Hey, can you just like, have a look at this one, reassign it a bit?" Um,
Nice.
yes, if there are any workflows you want to be running non-simultaneously, then you can just always have that trigger stop all other workflows. So keep that relatively safe. And in the next week or so, we'll be adding an option to stop a specific list of workflows. So if you don't want to stop all workflows, but maybe you want to stop your speed to lead workflows or something like that,
Mhm.
um, then you can just stop those ones only,
In the
just
trigger?
to make it a bit more, yeah, in the trigger. Same with like if you go to the job one, for example, and jobs are a net new trigger type as well because they didn't used to exist before. But with this one on the stop conditions, you can choose to stop ones just for that job. So the jobs and the events separately can kind of act like their own track as like
Mhm.
a sub track project. Um, so you could look at like not allowing simultaneous workflows to run on a job level, but ignore the project level, for example. Few more, few more options there for people.
Yeah. And then, of course, starting new workflows. I don't know if you can see, Oliver, we do have a few questions coming in.
Yeah, we can run through some questions whenever you're ready.
Let's do it.
Cool. Can you tell me how long a workflow will take to run, set one up, and how to immediately execute, but it took 15 minutes to complete? Is that normal? Depends what you mean by complete. So it will start workflows start about every minute or so. System will be checking for like when is one of these ready to go, and then based on what triggers it, that might have some pre-processing. Could take anywhere up to like a few minutes from like when, like let's say when a new lead hits the system, has all its processing happen, and then that goes and actually triggers, and the first thing is run. It also depends what the first step was. So I'm assuming by complete you mean for the first step to have run. Now, if that first step was like send an email, um, that itself might take a few minutes to process through, get sent, get received, and be visible. So those things can all take some time. So yeah, 15 minutes. I mean, that's on the longer side of things, but makes sense. For teams adopting workflows at scale, what's the best practice today for understanding what automation causes stage change or assignment change when reviewing the activity feed? The main thing is to be designing out your ProLine to be as simple as possible, right? If you've got a lot of different, like you want your project to be touching as few workflows as possible, and for those workflows to be all nice and linear, so that if changes are being made to that project, you know exactly where it's been from, where it's gone through. You can see its workflow history, so you can understand which workflows hit this project, and in those workflows, you can see any stage changes or any different conditions in there, and they should then be relatively self-explanatory to figure out which one was hitting which. Um, quite a few there, so we'll just try to hit as many as we can. Uh, Use cases where workflow for teams trying to keep workflow simple. How do you recommend handling cases where a workflow should run? Where a workflow should run if any one of several conditions is true without turning the trigger.
This one may be,
I
and also it's okay. I also have Luis on the line too as well. So any of these that we think might require like a one-on-one screen share, we're gonna collect your information too. So if you get
That
that
sounds good.
message from us, that's because we just
Yeah.
need more time with you to answer it than we could do live today. Um,
Yeah, with ones like that, it's like it's very subjective. It's all down to like how people are automating their business and what
yeah.
they want to do for their use cases. It's yeah, it's not really a single answer, unfortunately. Um, once a workflow Once a workflow is completed, is it automatically finished? Yes, exactly. So it used to be that at the bottom of campaigns, you could choose what you wanted to happen at the end. Do you want this to just like stop and finish? Or do you want this to go start a new workflow? Or do you want to like loop on the same workflow? Now there's nothing at the bottom of the workflow. If it gets to the very bottom, it's just going to end. Nothing's going to happen. It'll just be like a past workflow. However, at any time in the new workflows, you can choose to terminate it or start a new workflow conditionally, which is really cool. So let's say if it got to like step 3 in a 50-step process, but there was a tag present, maybe you'd added a tag to it for some reason, that could then start a new workflow. And that other workflow could be simultaneous or it could be stopping the existing workflow as well. So you have a ton more options there now in terms of what you're actually like how you want to follow that along its path. Um, let's have a look. In quotes, since you can auto send the invoice, does the workflow now override that, making the bottom? No, you'd still do that. Um, you'd still use your auto send invoice in the invoice template. What are the plans for the next phase of AI agents? When would we see the beta? There's nothing very high up on the ideas board for AI agents. I would love to get some more some more feedback there on what people want to see. Um, the highest thing up there in terms of AI elements is AI in campaigns. I'm not sure maybe if you're well workflows. God, I'm probably for a long time gonna keep calling workflows campaigns. Um, the ones there are like AI remix of a message. So let's say you have an email or an SMS going out. You're going to be able to optionally enable an AI remix of that, where you can prompt kind of like what you want it to be defined in the message as. It'll use the context based on like past history with you communicating with that client, um, and it will scrolling around. Um, and it will rewrite that message. It'll also enable AI reschedule. So let's say that you have a workflow running and the last text message was like, "Hey, can you get back to me next week? I'll, chat with the wife this weekend." So if you had a follow-up automation that was going to go out, it'll then reschedule that to when it thinks it should be sent. So sometime the next week, just to make that process a bit smoother. Um, they're the next kind of AI things in there. But if there are things for the AI agents themselves, yeah, add it to the ideas board, please. Would be great. We did add some recent speed updates to them, just some speed and performance things to lower latency, but nothing in terms of additional agent types yet.
um, we have, by the way, 3 minutes and 12 questions. So you may need to cherry pick here, and then and Luis from our support team will be reaching out to follow up with some of you.
Cool. That sounds good. Oh, someone had already asked about when do we see conversational AI coming to the ProLine sales funnel sort of things. Yeah, I mean, that's the first basic implementation of it, and then, like, full conversational AI could be really cool. Is WebFX able to integrate with ProLine? Yeah, we've had some conversations with them. With any marketing, well, with any people, I really suggest using, go to the integrations page and check out the ProLine API webhooks there. What a lot of third parties need is they need your project data sent to them as soon as something changes. That's available for everyone now. So you can just set up a webhook for them and it'll send them the project payload as soon as anything changes. That's primarily what these people are after. I think we got through. I think we got through most of them. Emily, are there any other ones that you can see in that list that we want to
Um,
run through?
I like I like there's a few really good ones in here. I like if multiple workflows are expected to run at once, what tools do users have to understand execution order and attribution when something doesn't behave as expected? Do you see the rest of that? If two workflows both assign an owner or update a stage, how does a user determine which one like won and why? I'm assuming it's like if two of the workflows have conflicting actions is the question.
Right. I mean, probably don't do that. Is the is the main thing. So
Yep.
probably set it up in a way where you don't have conflicting actions would be really good. If you do, then it will just be based on a race condition. So it'll be whichever one hits first is going to be overridden by the one that came after it.
Mhm.
It'll be the one that came after it.
Yeah.
There's
I would
not a
say
there's not an evaluation of like which one wins per
right.
se. It's just
Yeah. I would say, like, with any new feature and terminology and lingo, sometimes it's easy to overcomplicate, but when we're talking about a workflow in your business, think about, like, without Proline, what do you do after you send somebody a quote? What action do you take? What
yeah.
what folder do they go into on your desk? And
Right,
write that
right,
in your
and there
brain
shouldn't be like
and put it into
it shouldn't go to
Proline.
folder A and folder B.
Right.
It should like
Yes.
if these things are true, it should go to folder A. And
Right.
like set up your workflows and automation in a way that just makes it really simple. Is
Mhm.
the is the kind of key there. Um with any like workflows makes automation on Proline much more powerful. With that increased power, there's the chance to make it like really confusing if you do so. Um just try to keep it as simple as possible.
Right, which is also why we have such a great support team that is fully trained on workflows, and so please reach out to the bottom right chat if you ever have any questions. It and even if we haven't heard that question before, it does nothing but help us learn. We're always here and available to chat with you or hop on a call to screen share and dig deeper into what you're trying to accomplish. All right. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for joining office hours today. I'm really happy to see a big crowd and excited for next week when we dive deeper into triggers. Thanks so much.
Thank you.